Let's welcome in Tom Murphy to the show this morning. Tom, we will talk your NFL team, the Atlanta Falcons, coming up with a little Felipe Franks news. But pads today, full. They're starting. What should Arkansas fans expect with that occurring today?
Well, just more focus on the real battles on the inside when plays are won or lost, basically. I mean, you can miss a block and a running back can make somebody miss, but if you block things up right, like the Florida game, that play that Traylon Smith read well, and you got a great block from Myron Cunningham, and Blake Kern sealed off a linebacker, and safety took kind of a bad angle. Traylon Smith goes the distance. You block them up right, good things can happen. And so we'll see. I think probably the most fascinating position group on this team is the D-line, because there could be some of these new guys, they could be huge contributors. I'm hearing that Ridgeway is earning some really good snaps, and so we could see a whole lot of Ridgeway on the interior. And then the guys who are coming back, Isaiah Nichols and Dorian Gerald and Torian Carter, Eric Gregory, Zach Williams, Mateo Soto, those guys, if they want to get on the field, they're going to have to deliver. So you want the guys to stay on their feet, but you want to see who's using good technique and who's gained weight, who's bigger, and who can make it effective for them on the field.
Tom, you bring up John Ridgeway. We posed the question, with pad starting day, which Razorback player would you least likely to get hit by? Ridgeway was mentioned. So, Tom, you're in a shell drill, you're in a 1v1, you're in you call it a bloody alley, Tommy, I think is the drill that you referred to it earlier.
Yep.
Tom, what is the one Arkansas football player on the current roster that you would not want to get shellacked by?
Well, Ridgeway would rank up there. Hayden Henry is a guy who just, if you remember that Colorado State game from a couple years ago, he crushed into that running back, Marvin McKinney, or whatever his last name was. And Hayden hurt his shoulder on that play, but, man, he laid that dude out. But Jalen Catalon is the one that he's such an instinctive guy. You think about, you can count on, it would take more than two hands to count the number of plays he made where he just sniffed out what was happening, and as soon as a receiver caught a pass, he was there, and he smashed them. I thought both of his targeting ejections last year were right on the border. I really didn't like that LSU one. The other one, maybe the A&M game, maybe a little more legitimate, but the LSU one, I did not like that one. There was basically nowhere for him to go, and hopefully he's more, precise at where his helmet is and how he leads. But he brings the wood, so I would say Catalan.
Yeah. Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush. Go back to something you said a minute ago, and first day, full padded practice. I can only imagine the excitement, and I don't know what period of practice it will be, but I'm sure it's one that none of the media will get to see, when there will be a little bit of best on best, ones on ones, and Jamal Ashley and Cody Kennedy and Sam Pittman will get their first glimpse of how good their football team is really going to be when they get to see those D linemen like you were talking about, and Ridgeway and Myron Cunningham, and Ty Clary now over at center, and I want to ask you about Stromberg here in a minute. Who can win some of those battles? And isn't that the first good indication for Pittman and Ashley and Kennedy of how good their football team has a chance to be, is what happens in that 5 or 10 minute period today when best on best go at it in the trenches?
Yeah, and because that's the essential nature of football, is I overpower you in some way. I block you, I come up and tackle you, or I break your tackle. And they have a drill where I think there's two guys. Well, there's the running back, and then there's a blocker, and then on defense, they all are laying down on their backs. Blow the whistle, everybody jumps up, and the back tries to get through. And it's just a mono deal. One guy's trying to block a linebacker, and then a safety or another DB is coming up and trying to tackle the ball carrier. And it's all about competing. It's about winning your block. It's about getting off press at the line of scrimmage if you're a receiver, and the other way around, it's a DB trying to stone a receiver before he can get out into his break, and it was route and delay, blow up a play. So, yep, today is the first day of that, and I think that's the one thing that Sam Pittman has instilled, maybe more than anything else, is that desire to compete and believe that you can beat the man across from you. And the more successful you are at doing that, a few years ago, Arkansas might win, 27% of the plays or something, 25% of the plays. And now I think they're winning half the plays sometimes. And their guys are beating the other guys a higher percentage of the time.
So if the offensive line won that battle in that period today, what's that tell you? That
they're capitalizing on their veteran experience. I mean, the limited amount of stuff we've seen, the defense has been very aggressive, and they've been winning more of the team thing. So the O-line, I'm sure, is feeling a little bit of heat that, we're all returning starters. We need to be better. And, they've got to replace Ricky Stromberg for a while now. So Ty Clary's back at center. But the good thing about that is that that Brady Latham and Bo Limmer, who've been the second team guard, they've got starting experience. And they know what they're doing. So I think Limmer's up at right guard right now. But the O-line should be better this year. And I think the defensive line will wind up being better because all these transfer guys are going to push the guys who are returning.
Yep. All right, let me flip the question. If the defensive line wins that period, what does that tell you?
Well, I guess winning is all in shades of gray. I mean, I wouldn't see the defense like winning 80 or 90% of the snaps. But I think that they know the defensive line has to be more impactful. We've talked about that a good bit. And they've got these guys eager to get on the field, and I just think you're going to see better competition on that defensive line. And I think Barry Odom, I think they're ready to run more four-man fronts. They felt like they couldn't afford to be in four-man as much last year, but now they can get that heavier player on the field. And as much as I like the 6 DB looks, that does mean that your extra safeties have to be really good tacklers. They have to diagnose what's happening and come up and tackle. But it makes it a little harder to block if you got the 4 men down, and I think we're going to see more of those tactics this season.
Tom, one of the things that you, Tommy, Richard, and I were discussing last night about this mask mandate that's been passed down to the U of A system, campuses, colleges across this state. From your perspective, if they do enact a policy where you have to wear a mask inside of Razorback Stadium, how much do you think that will deter attendance to games this season?
Oh, the people who want to go to the games, I've got to think there's a very minute percentage of people who would be put off by, you're telling me I have to wear a mask? Well, I'm not going to show up. I mean, I'm sure there'd be some. But also, I think people just have to be realistic about what's happening in society. And, we did it all last spring or all this time of year last year saying, hey, look, people, just take that step. We're not trying to take away your individual rights. Just put a mask on and do the right thing. And also go out and get vaccinated. So I hope that they don't have to come off the 100% attendance. Things don't look good right now. And hopefully if they can trend better in the next few weeks, the 100% capacity will stay in place. And people just need to be smart about going out in the crowd. I mean, that's what the bottom line is. You have to make the individual decision to be smart about how you're going to interact with your fellow man.
Let's talk about your Atlanta Falcons here for a sec. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network was saying that Felipe Franks has been shadowing Matt Ryan like a hawk at every single thing he can do, and he would be a guy that he thinks is going to stand out in preseason. Tom, what's your gut tell you about who's going to be the backup quarterback? Is it going to be Franks, or is it going to be A.J. McCarron for your Atlanta Falcons?
Well, clearly A.J. McCarron has a lot more experience in the league, national championship winning quarterback and so on, who, if he's married to or still dating that young lady, Catherine she's very beautiful, like Brent Musburger said. But Felipe Franks is a smart guy, and it makes sense to shadow a guy who's been to a Super Bowl, should have won a Super Bowl, and has had the success Matt Ryan has had. I don't know. If I watched their camp, I might have a better idea. I hope Felipe makes the roster because he does have some qualities that you really want in an NFL quarterback. And the one thing Felipe's got to do better is either keep his eyes down the field, stay in the pocket, deliver, or make the decision and get out of there. And he didn't do that enough last year. And hopefully KJ Jefferson was better at doing that this time.
Full pad start today. Tom, I know you're excited. Every Arkansas fan listening to this program is excited, and we're excited to recap it with you on Monday, man.
Time to get jacked up on full pads. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Tom.